All right, looks like we're live. I'm Jason Barr, KGun9, joined by Pat Paris. And Pat, we've got some big breaking news here with Arizona head basketball coach Sean Miller, no longer the head basketball coach, the university parting ways with Miller this morning. After 12 years, he is no longer the Wildcat basketball coach. And here we are on Facebook Live. Certainly there's going to be some mixed reaction. Certainly Sean Miller did a lot on the court, over 300 wins, 3 Elite Eight appearances. In fact, you could probably say he did everything on the court except take him to the Final Four. But off the court, the last 4 years, this program did play under a cloud, and a dark cloud that is actually still there. But today, here we are, Pat, Sean Miller out as Arizona head basketball coach.
That's right. And if you're surprised at all by this, I think we were a little surprised at the timing of it in the sense that we knew that with 1 year left on his contract, the University of Arizona was either going to have to extend his contract or part ways with him. A little surprised that it happened this morning. Reports say that he met with Dave Hickey and Dr. Robbins last night, the University of Arizona athletic director and President Robbins last night. They couldn't come to a conclusion. They met again this morning, and then they decided to part ways. They will, according to the press release, they will honor the last year of his contract, which is somewhere around the range of $2.5 million. But as you mentioned, Jason, it's the NCAA investigation with the 5 level 1 charges against the program that really was the tipping point, I think. Not necessarily what was happening on the court, but what was happening off the court with the NCAA investigation.
You don't see coaches in major college athletics go into the last year of their contract. And in fact, in a lot of situations in basketball and football too, they don't go into the second to last year of their contract because a lot of coaches claim it's tough to recruit. It doesn't look good for continuity. So Miller's contract would keep getting rolled over and extended every single year as he was doing well, as he was taking the team to the Elite Eight and deep into the NCAA tournament and getting these top recruiting classes. But certainly since the Book Richardson arrest in the fall of 2017, that hasn't happened, and his contract was set to expire at the end of next season. So, certainly the U of A wanted to get out in front of this, and they did the self-imposed ban, and we're going to be in this year's postseason. They're hoping that doesn't extend for another year, but we're still also waiting on the notice of infractions and how the school is going to be penalized.
And real quick, since this is all developing, a lot of people may be just learning about it, that Sean Miller and the U of A have parted ways, the head basketball coach. And we invite your comments as well here on Facebook. If you've got any questions, comments, please send them off to us and we'll try to answer some of those. The Dave Hickey comment, I'll just read it really quickly, Jason. Dave Hickey saying in the news release, "We appreciate Sean's commitment to our basketball program and to the university. After taking the many factors involved into account, we simply believe that we need a fresh start, and now is the time. I want to thank Sean, Amy, and their sons for their service to the university and wish them the very best in the future." And so you notice the wording there, Jason, and we were talking about it as we learned an hour and a half ago or so of the departure of Sean Miller. It's the words, the verbiage isn't he was fired. It was they've come to a decision that they will, however you want to put it, they're talking about it's ready for a fresh start. We would say part ways. There had to be some kind of decision. We know that Adia Barnes' contract, a new contract extension, will go next week before the Board of Regents. Something had to give. Either Sean Miller had to have a new contract extension and the Board of Regents had to approve it or not approve it, or you were going to have to part ways. As we said, never do you go into the final year of a contract if you're a major power in college basketball or football for that matter.
Well, this is probably the least expensive way to do it because they just have to pay him for next year. There's no big buyout. It's not like the, what was it, 8-figure deal that Kevin Sumlin got or close to it, where when they got rid of him, he had several years to go. So this isn't as pricey an exit as that was. But now, the focus turns to, well, before we get to that, Pat, you're an alum. You're from here. We'll start with you first. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think this is the right move at the right time the university did this?
I have mixed emotions, Jason, because I like Sean Miller. I like what he did with the program, but are there frustrations with Sean Miller? Sure, there are frustrations with how the program reached a certain point, and then we've seen it kind of regress a little bit each year. And the NCAA investigation, no doubt, played a role in that. And so I think it was the time. I think my reaction is, wow, they did it now. But now that I think about it, I understand the timing. I think it is time for a fresh start. You look no further than a UCLA, who's changed coaches so many times over the last 15, 20 years, and yet they're still having success. It can be done. It's not it's not a one of those things where it's going to set the program back 5 years. I think Nick Cronin came in and revitalized the program. They make it deep. They make it to the Final Four. I think that can happen in this day and age, especially with the transfer portal. I think that I think it's the right time to do it, Jason. I guess is my point.
The right time. If you're going to do it, this was the right time for sure. Yeah, I mean, what Cronin did with UCLA has been terrific, and I think a top coach would still take this job even if they have a setback for a year as far as no NCAA tournament next year or even a couple of loss of scholarships. I don't think that would deter somebody from taking the position. You look at other past situations where coaches have taken a job even with that hanging over them, because that's a temporary and that's not from what they caused. So I don't think it will deter a top coach. I think this will be a top job for somebody to come in and do it. So yeah, Pat, I remember when they were getting so close and they lost to Wisconsin those back-to-back years in the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Miller was asked about it, and he said, you just keep knocking on the door. You just keep knocking on the door. Eventually, you're going to break through. And they just never did. And you thought when they got Ayton and then they had Trier on that team with Raleigh Alkins, you thought that that team would do something special, and then they get blown out by Buffalo in the first round.
Yeah,
and then the team with 3 one-and-doners last year didn't get the chance to play in the NCAA tournament because of COVID, but they didn't look like a Final Four, an elite team at any time during the season, really, with Najee and Josh Green and Nico Mannion. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that nothing ever ends well, or wouldn't end, as they say. So, 12 years is a long time. It's not anybody's job forever, and I'm confident U of A will find somebody good.
Let me read the statement, part of the statement today by the University of Arizona announcing that Arizona's departing men's basketball coach, Sean Miller. It was Dr. Robbins who said that, here's just part of what he said. Arizona basketball means so much to so many, and as stewards of the program, we must always act in the best interest of the university. I believe our future is bright, and I look forward to welcoming a new head coach to the Wildcat family. And they go on to saying that the search will begin for a new head coach immediately. That's kind of standard operating procedure. But I think he's right about one thing, and you touched on it, Jason. This is a special program when it comes to college basketball, and we all know why, and that's Lute Olson. And I think that this still is a very attractive job as far as being a Pac-12 conference member, which now means something again, Jason. For a little while, it didn't mean a whole lot to be in the Pac-12. You weren't getting much recognition, but the respect is back for the Pac-12 with 5 teams finishing in the top 25 in the AP in the just completed AP poll for the 2020-2021 season. So I think it is an attractive job. I don't think that the cloud of the NCAA investigation will last much longer. And as you said, maybe one more year of some kind of penalties will be coming down. The university can say this: we've moved on now. We've completely moved on. Those assistant coaches are gone. The head coach is now gone. We already self-imposed a 1-year postseason ban. So I think the NCAA will look at this now and kind of say, okay, well, we want to do maybe one more year, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be anything that a coach would be deterred by.
Well, it's up to the infractions, right? The
sure.
Infractions committee.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I think we know who's going to be hiring this new head coach. And
you mean
they can call it a search committee all they want, an executive firm. They could have Dave Hickey in on it all as much as possible. But we all know that Dr. Robbins is going to hire this coach because Dave Hickey said, hey, people all but said we're going to hire a football coach with ties to the university. And then all of a sudden, Jed Fish comes out of nowhere, but it's somebody who had a relationship with Dr. Robbins, right? I think Dr. Robbins wants to make this hire. I think he's excited about it. You know, he's a big sports fan, big basketball fan. You know, he's hobnobbing in the front row with Terry Francona. He wants this program to do as well as anybody else. And I think he's excited about, I think he's confident in his ability to make this hire. I think that's something he's looking forward to doing.
Well, remember when they were hiring the football coach, the one criteria was supposed to be ties to the university. In this case, don't you think there's a stronger case to be made because of I'll put it this way, the coaching tree of Lute Olson is now very big. And you have a lot of good candidates. If we want to go in that direction now, Jason, and talk candidates, there are a lot of qualified candidates to take over this program that played here and now coach at Division I basketball or even in the NBA as assistant coaches.
That may be true, and that does deepen the pool, but I don't think they're going to limit it to that, because if that was so strong to them, then they wouldn't have hired Jed Fish. So I think they'll look at both. That just deepens the pool and makes it more of a higher probability, that somebody with U of A ties. And, people are already starting to throw out names. And sure, the first name that's coming to mind is Josh Pastner, the coach at Georgia Tech, who had a great year and, has been at Memphis and certainly has a ton of experience and didn't have a ton of success at Memphis, but enough for Georgia Tech to want to hire him. And then he won either the ACC regular season or the tournament this past year. To do well in COVID is certainly remarkable. And he was very helpful to us when we did our stories on Lute Olson's passing. They're going to want somebody with a good personality who's media friendly and, more importantly, community friendly. And I think he's probably going to fit that bill. But there's going to be a number of names that are going to be floated around. And who knows, maybe some that we can't even think of right now, a la Jed Fish. So we'll see about that. But I think that's just more for a story for another day. I think today is here's Claudia Crum. I would love Josh. Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of comments like that, Pat.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. And don't forget, Josh Pastner not only has the Arizona connection, I think he has a Tucson connection, and he's well known and well respected in the Tucson community. That helps for sure. That's just, it's another box to check that you don't have to worry about somebody coming in who has no idea about the program. He knows all about the University of Arizona program. I personally like Josh Pastner. I think maybe he'd be at the top of my list or near the top of my list. Here, I'll just throw out I'll throw out the three other names that have been already mentioned on social media today. Jason Terry.
Not ready. I don't know that he's.
I don't believe is ready.
Estefan, I don't think he's ready. He's had 1 year as an assistant coach at Arizona. He's got no other coaching experience.
But here's what I threw out.
Anybody thinks somebody like that's ready?
And I would say I would totally agree with you. I don't think he's ready to be a head coach, but I think he's ready to have even more responsibilities as assistant coach. And it would be very smart, very wise for the university to suggest that strongly to the next head coach. And it would be really wise for the next head coach, whoever it is, to say, you know what, I need that carryover. I need somebody who has the connection with the players now. And Jason Terry is it. I would go as far as to make him my top assistant. That's if I were running things. Let me throw out the other few names.
You're going to see. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay. The other couple names are Damon Stoudemire is always going to be mentioned, right? Because he was so loved here. He's such a terrific player. He's now at Pacific. He's doing well at Pacific. It's maybe it's a little too early in his career as well. And then the other one that's an interesting name that gets thrown out is Miles Simon. Again, another terrific player who everybody just loves here in Tucson as a Wildcat fan, who's a Lakers assistant. I don't know if he would be ready as well, Jason, necessarily to take over the program, but he's certainly a fun name to think about, Miles Simon, and also Damon Stoudemire. Your thoughts?
Well, both obviously have more experience than Jason Terry. Stoudemire was assistant here and then went on to Pacific, whereas I think the two of them have different personalities for sure. Would you say Stoudemire and Miles Simon?
Sure.
Miles Simon is super engaging. Not that Stoudemire isn't, but those are two names that definitely should get interviewed for sure and serious consideration. And I do think part of it will be on how well they interview. You know, we can look at their numbers of how they've done, but I think that's going to be a big part of it for sure. And I think those are the three top names that we're hearing from. Those are U of A ties. University of North Carolina just made a coaching change when they had to because Roy Williams retired. They went from within, Hubert Davis. But the first time they went from within, it didn't always work so well when Matt Doherty was hired. So that can go either way. I do think you need to look at everybody, but definitely strongly consider those three and interview them for sure.
Well, and this is such an attractive job. I still, you still have to go back. Yes, there were no fans this season we just completed, but this is still one of the toughest places to play. It's one of the best home court advantages in college basketball. Not, it's certainly in the top five. You could make an argument of who's 1, 2, or 3, but I think it's in the top 5. That makes it attractive. Being out west makes it attractive for certain recruiting, especially California area. The U of A's done fairly well recruiting this part of the country. And so I think that's what makes it attractive. To me, what makes the most sense is to hire one of these three guys that we talked about. But as you said, this is a search that's going to go further and longer than any of us probably want. It's not as simple as let's just hire. It's the next day. Let's hire, Josh Pastner or Damon Stoudemire or Miles Simon. They're not going to do that tomorrow. They're going to take a little bit of time. It might be next week, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
I think that I'm interested to see more fans' comments. I think the fans were totally behind Miller. I think the first time that started to turn was in the 2017 Sweet 16 when they lost to Xavier. And either Lowry Markkanen didn't get the ball enough or Alonzo Trier took too many shots. I think that was the first time the fans were a little peeved, if you will, with Miller. But when we went to do fan interviews right before COVID, it was still strongly supportive of Miller. And I think people were excited about the top recruits that he was getting year in and year out. But as we sit here today, we're still not 100% sure if here's some more names, Stoudemire, Musselman. We're still not 100% sure, how clean the recruiting of those players was,
Right.
And
right.
Even, we've already started to hear a lot of things, with Raleigh Alkins. And to hear Sean Miller's voice on that HBO documentary, because I believed him the whole time. I'm thinking a couple can be married, share the same bed, and you don't know what somebody's doing on the side with a bank account or who knows what. So you don't know what your assistant coach is doing, every day. And so I would always give Miller the benefit of the doubt. But then when you heard his voice on that HBO documentary, it was like, oh my goodness. When you heard him say they don't have the advantage in that area like we do, and every word was there except the word money on that comment. It just kind of makes you wonder. I remember that day, DeAndre Ayton was supposed to go to Kansas. U of A
Right.
was like a third. It was like, whoa, how did that happen? And so you don't know. You don't want to accuse it if it didn't happen, but certainly we're going to learn a lot more, in the next couple months. So,
you make a good point. I think when you take yourself out of the equation as a fan and you look at it objectively, you say, how could the University of Arizona continue on with Sean Miller? There were a lot of hurdles, a lot of obstacles to get over, and the biggest of which is these 5 level 1 charges by the NCAA. It would be really hard for them to move forward under the circumstances, whether or not there was that one definitive moment where you say, yes, Sean Miller did this or this. We don't know that right now, but even without that definitive defining moment, I still think the body of the NCAA investigation made it to the point where the university really had no choice. I think, as you and I have talked before, Jason, I think it would have been very, very difficult for the University of Arizona to offer Sean Miller a contract extension, both sides agree on it, and then take it to the Board of Regents and have the Board of Regents just oh, sure, let's do rubber stamp this. I don't think it would have been an easy process. I think it would have been a next to impossible process at this point to get a contract extension for Sean Miller. I think this was inevitable. The more I think about it.
All right, so email coming right now. We're going to have an availability to speak with Hickey at 1:30. So
that'll be good. That'll be good.
We're going to know some more at that time.
Especially the conversations. Maybe he'll be able to share a little bit about the conversation that Dave Hickey, Dr. Robbins, and Sean Miller had last night, and then apparently reports say that they came back together this morning to try to talk some more, and they just were at an impasse.
Point. I mean, if you give him another year or 2 years, it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, you can't give him 5 years.
No, there's no way the Board of Regents
hanging over our head. The program's in a little bit of decline from where it was a few years back. Here's 5 years. I mean, that's not how you get a 5-year contract. You know, so a little bit of a tough spot. 12 years is a long time. You know. And we should look at all the good. His son was very passionate on Twitter this morning, saying, you know, he listed all of his accomplishments, which we're going to mention on KGUN 9 News today, and said, oh, good luck filling those shoes, you know. And on the court, a lot was accomplished. I would say everything but a Final Four, you know. Number 1 overall draft pick, 3 Elite Eights, 3 Pac-12 tournament championships.
Right.
Was it 5 regular seasons? Yeah,
7 trips to the and 7 trips to the NCAA tournament all those 12 years. I mean,
can you imagine that? You're a coach for 12 years and you win the Pac-12 regular season 5 times.
Right.
That's I don't think that's good luck to anybody doing that.
It's not easy to do when you've got Dana Altman at Oregon. You've got UCLA. Doesn't matter which coach, they always seem to be competitive. And then USC's makes a run from time to time. And now look how well teams like Utah and even Colorado this year. It's a better league than a lot of people have given credit to the last 12 years. And certainly it was a really terrific conference this year.
Under 19 gold medal FIBA win. He was an Olympic coach in addition to that.
That's right.
Incredible winning percentage, 73.5%. So, on the court, like I said, everything but a Final Four. Off the court, the big cloud, and there's more, community-friendly coaches. He got a little bit more, and we'll wrap this up here in a little bit. He got a little bit more community-friendly and media-friendly the last couple of years.
I would agree.
He did the big donation at the Boys and Girls Center. He started to learn everybody's first name. There was some criticism that he didn't know who people were, who he should have known. That doesn't bother me, But to a lot of other people, it did. But he started calling everybody by their first name. And I mentioned the Boys and Girls Club donation. He got more community and media friendly and just more friendly in general the last couple of years, especially this year. There was a kind of a different tone to him. And maybe he also felt a little defeated at times. There was no lack of effort on his part. I mean, I'm sure he worked day and night, every day, every week to try to get this team to the Final Four, and it just didn't happen. So
no,
the 12-year Sean Miller era comes to an end as we wrap things up here on KGUN on Facebook Live.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned it, but we'll have much more coverage of all of this from what led up to this with the NCAA investigation. I think Craig Smith is working on that. You'll have much more as well on Sean Miller's 12-year career. We're going to look at the economics of all this, where Sean Miller's contract ranked among all the Pac-12 coaches. And you and
I'm going to bring back He Touched the Ball.
You have to. It's part of the legacy. It's part of the legacy. And you and I will talk more about, maybe we'll have a little more insight after Dave Hickey speaks with you and the rest of the media coming up here at 1:30. So that will be at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock tonight if you want to tune in.
Real quickly, Pat, do you expect him to say anything, or do you just expect Dave Hickey to say, it's time for a change of direction? We parted ways. We met last night. I don't think we're going to get any real juice of, a of a piece of information or a bite or something that's not in their media release.
The only thing I would,
if we learned something different.
I would hope that he would maybe fill in a little bit of the details about how hard they actually tried to get a new contract for him. Were they really trying to get a contract extension? And if you were, what happened? What failed? And
because Robbins did say a couple weeks ago, Miller's our coach.
Right,
we got a good team coming back next year.
Right.
But we know a lot of times in corporate America, bosses are like, "We love you, we love you, we love you. You're fine."
Yeah. But I want to know that. How close were you to actually getting? And then what was the impasse that made you say no? So if you could maybe ask those questions or see if it gets answered, that'd be great. But that's really all. The more than just the press release, I don't expect much else.
All right. Well, hey, Pat, thanks so much. And hope our viewers enjoyed that. I believe it was on Facebook Live. This is another new technology. Here it is. Our digital director is telling me we all have the Hiki thing live on digital. So for anybody who wants to watch that, I guess we'll have that on our Facebook Live, if not our website. So
yeah, that'll be what you said, 1:30 this afternoon.
1:30 our Pacific time, which is right now our time. So
our time. Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right,
Pat, I'll see you live at 5 and 6 o'clock on the news.
See you, Jason. All right.